Today, I'm going to be talking about how to think more like a CEO or a consultant relative to just a contractor. Now, why am I qualified to talk about this stuff? Well, number one, I'm a trustee and sit around many other trustees, non-executive directors, CEOs, and directors, part of the senior leadership teams, in order to help them improve their performance, develop their strategy, develop some sort of succession planning, but also look at finances, risks, and issues in various different capacities. Also, within my consulting capacity, I work very closely with directors and have worked very closely with CEOs and COOs. And so there is an understanding in terms of how these individuals operate. And thirdly, of course, building my own thing, there is definitely some qualification that I can talk about from my own experiences, if not from a CEO standpoint, from a consulting standpoint. So that's what positions me to talk about this stuff. And I think this is really important because we're in this space where we're moving closer towards a portfolio career. I consistently say this. This is a career that you create and build relative to one that you pursue. And so that consultant mindset, that CEO thinking is going to be more applicable relative to what we've had in the past, which is the 9-to-5 mindset and or a contractor mindset, which are not necessarily bad, but something we need to progress towards developing and changing. And so, as we can see here, I've written, contractors chase projects, which is understandable, but CEOs build businesses. And the moment I understood this, everything about how I approach my work, my value, my money, and my future changed completely. I say this to say that it's about mindset shifts. So mindset, what is it? It is the established set of attitudes that one has. And so attitudes are essentially the things embedded in one's mind that are, I guess, displayed by behaviors and the deep-seated values that one has, i.e. the things that we see as important. And so when you're shifting the importance of what you prioritize in your life based on the behaviors that you have, then you're more likely going to do things differently because you understand what is important. So this is where it all kind of links in, so to speak. Now, before I continue, for those of you who are interested in really understanding how do I prepare to be a consultant, then you can take my readiness assessment. So this is the consultant readiness assessment. And that enables you to understand what it is that you need to do to be in the right space. So if this is something you're interested in, make sure to click the link below. So the first thing I want to set is the context. So like I said before, there's nothing wrong with being a contractor per se. Most of us start here. Now, what do I mean by this? Even if you're not contracting, you have a contract of some shape or form. So whether that is a permanent 9-to-5 role or a part-time 9-to-5 role, that is a contract. Whether you're finding your own gigs or your own work, those are contracts. Whether you're inside or outside of IR35, that is a contract. Whether you're doing freelance, it's a contract. So these are all different types of contracts that exist. So we all start there. But what I will say is that contracting doesn't need to be the ceiling. And so this is where the portfolio career comes into play, because you're building something, you're creating something that makes more sense to you. It's more aligned to you. So it should be a gateway to something bigger. Now, I have the privilege of coaching some amazing people. And so with that in mind, a lot of these people understand that consulting, or contracting, should we say, is a way to develop certain types of skills. And so with that in mind, the development of the skills of finding your own work and being clear about or articulating the value that you provide, learning new skills, whether it is networking or stakeholder engagement or management, whether it's managing risks effectively, whether it's leading, understanding sort of like the frameworks and methodologies that you need to build or present or utilize, your communication, these are all things that you're building. And so this shapes you into somebody who has improved competence regardless where you go. So it doesn't really matter where you go, you're going to use these things. So again, transitioning from inside to outside of IR35 or to some form of employment, okay, you realize very quickly that your thinking has to evolve based on some of the stuff that I said. So you're not thinking about hours necessarily, or I have to do this by this time. Yes, there are deadlines, X, Y, and Z based on the deliverables that you have. But you're thinking more so about how do I develop a system, an ecosystem that provides some sort of value? So let me break this down for you in a bit more detail. What is a deliverable? A deliverable is a key output. What is an output? An output is something tangible that you produce. This is a document. This is a completion of some sort. You can touch it, you can feel it, you can experience it. And so deliverables are a great way to measure how something or a group of things contribute to an outcome, something desirable by nature. And so thinking like this, you understand it's not just about the outputs, it's about the outcome that you're trying to produce. And so the CEO mindset or the consultant mindset is more transformational by nature rather than transactional. And we're trying to move into that space. And so it really comes down to language, how you speak, how you communicate, and all those different things there. And so here, we've got thinking in terms of outcomes, really important. So as we know already, contractors come in to fill specific gaps. They may be brought in to reduce workload, all of that kind of stuff there. But oftentimes, especially if you're inside of IR35 and your client does know the difference, it's very transactional. So we don't want to start from that point. You want to be treated as if you were focusing more on, again, these outcomes. And of course, when it comes to being a consultant, this is something that I do. Again, you're essentially a space where deliverables are more important, outcomes are more important, and value rather than volume is more important. Now, of course, you still have timesheets. You know, it's good to be organized with your time and let your client know what's happening here and there out of courtesy. And there may be some things that are volume based, but that isn't the focus, is what I'm saying. Okay. The other thing to say is that every piece of your work, so to speak, as a consultant, or even if you're developing your business, okay, as part of your portfolio career, should have some sort of problem you're solving. Now, there is something that I developed known as the consultant mindset. And that's essentially someone having the ability to strategically solve problems using frameworks and methodologies and creative thinking in a unique way to a specific client. That's what the consultant mindset is. And of course, is establishing a set of attitudes that enables you to do that well. That's the consultant mindset. And so when you adopt this stuff, there are certain things that come into that. What did I say that's part of this sort of like definition? And that is frameworks, methodologies. And so some of this stuff will include having a problem that you're solving, having a problem statement. What are those key outputs, i.e. the deliverables that you're solving? What are the milestones? What is a milestone? A milestone is basically a gateway. So unless you do this, you can't go to the next stage, okay? Outcomes, again, are the things that you're looking to achieve or the client is looking to achieve, the desirables. And success criteria is basically, you can almost see it as a checklist of things that need to be done in order to say that this project, this program, this business is successful. So this puts you in a results economy, not a time economy, because all of this stuff can be measurable. You know, where there's a problem, there's a solution. Where there are deliverables, there is an end product. Where there is a milestone, there is completion. Where there are outcomes, there are happy customers. Where there are success criteria, there are ticks. So all of this stuff can be measured. So as we keep this moving, you know, you need to make sure that you're speaking from truth. Now, what I've got here is that when you write proposals, and I've spoken about this before, and I might do a video with this, you need to be very clear about what those proposals include. So typically what I do in my proposal is have an executive summary, a background of what I think the program or project is about. Then I talk about what's inside of scope and outside of scope. Have to be really clear about that. Then I talk about the key deliverables and what that looks like. Also talking about, again, key outputs that we're looking to get from this specific sort of program or project. in addition to any clarifications such as IR35 clarification status, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's all these different things. So there's costing, blah, 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 blah. So these are some examples of things that you would hope to have in a contract. So if you are a portfolio careerist, if you're somebody who's trying to create your own career, it would be important for your own personal development to have your own proposal for what you're trying to do. That keeps you on track. When I am, again, acquiring new clients, I have a landing page that pretty much follows that frame because it's something I'm used to doing. It may not look like that on the landing page, but I'm used to actually providing these proposals to clients. So why not do something that I'm used to doing? I'm confident in talking to. It's the same thing. So you learn that your value isn't being available. It's about being transformational, as I said before. So that's really, really important. The next bit is you need to be able to be confident to build your own IP. And so this really comes down to, like, what are the things that you've done in your past that you can explain in a specific way? So for me, it would be the 9 C's model. I've spoken about that quite a bit. You got your core foundations, you got your growth sort of phase, and then you've also got your scaling phase or learning phase. You've also got the pillars of mastery, okay? You've also got the mastery performance indicators. There are all these things that I've come up with. DAPIE is another one, DAPIE, when it comes to a project management framework. Why have I come up with this stuff? Because I like thinking about it. And 2, I like to do stuff that makes sense for me. Even in my book, The Power of Goals, there's a whole set of frameworks in there. Not all of them are mine. Some are borrowed and I reference those things. But some of the other things are completely mine because of experience. So you need to spend time to sit down and learn exactly what you know and break it down sequentially and add some IP to it, intellectual property. If you think about the UK, the whole UK is based on services, and services are based on knowledge, IP, where they share this information in exchange for money. So IP is a very important thing. And so here it says assets equal things that can be reused, taught or sold. So programs, courses, coaching, mentoring, service, advisory. Assets equals business value, especially if it has a strong brand behind it, and assets equal freedom. So these are really important stuff to bear in mind. This is applicable to anyone, even if you're a contractor, consultant, or a personal brand. This stuff becomes extremely important. So the next thing is you want to build out your processes. So every time you consult or do something new or fresh, develop an SOP centered around that, a standard operating procedure. In my last video, I think I spoke about how to do that. So you can look at that video to learn more. Templates, designs, meeting rhythms, all of this stuff should be written out because it can be reused again and again and again. And this really talks about designing a methodology or governance framework that becomes quite useful over time. So these become your systems. It helps you develop your consistency. It builds demand. And again, it builds revenue as well, because the only way that you can really get more money, more clients is if you provide value and you showcase that value in a way that makes sense and speaks to your target audience. That's how it works. It doesn't matter if you're a contractor, consultant, business owner, CEO. It works the same way across the board. So bear this stuff in mind. So then next we have, again, leadership equals leverage. Now, I have a definition for leadership, and leadership to me is living by example. And so if you're living by example, you're basically doing things in a way, being in a way, having stuff that other people admire and feel like that would enrich their life too. And so based on the display of the things that you be, do, and have, people take that on board and are more likely going to listen to you, are more likely going to be influenced by what you say, how you act, all of that kind of stuff there. And so this is my definition of leadership. And so here, what I've said here is that if you look at things from these lenses, so professional, you have integrity, confidentiality, and precision. Why are people not going to trust what you're saying, at least anyway? It's not the full whack, but why aren't they going to trust you? If there is a sense of informality, this part is important because it's the glue between the professional. If you can build good relationships, have openness and humility, get people to relate to you a certain way, you're more likely going to get success with those people. Then there is the mentoring element. So whether you're supporting junior members of staff or if there are people who are new, you tell them what to do, but not in a dictatorial way. but a dictatorship way, should I say, but more so in an encouraging, supportive, I can help you sort of way. And then there's the coaching advisory for those those people who are a bit more experienced, but who need ownership over what they're doing. The coaching and advisory element, which is empowering questions, effective listening, a certain level of inquiry, good feedback. These are all ways in which you do the advisory and coaching side of things, okay? And so when you understand all of this stuff, this all becomes part of your consulting IP, or at least your consulting approach. So the importance behind all of this stuff is that CEOs don't scale businesses. Other people do. You can't do this by yourself. You need other people to help you, okay? And so whether you're adopting the CEO mindset or the consulting mindset, they're both useful. So put people at the heart of what you do. Again, consultants don't scale advisory. Clients do when they become more capable, because the testimonials, the recommendations on LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff there, that helps grow your business. And so a people philosophy becomes part of your business model. That's essentially what happens. The final thing I want to say is that you want to turn your learnings into opportunities. So essentially here, what I'm basically saying is that speak on how your portfolio career is evolving. So this is why it's really important to make sure that you track your learnings, or even share this stuff online so that, again, you can help other people do what they're doing. And so as a building a portfolio career, as somebody who has a CEO mindset, you're not just going to be thinking about, oh, I'm just going to be working my 9 to 5 in a permanent or part-time fashion. Oh, I'm just going to be contracting or consulting. No, you're going to be thinking about, how can I create a certain level of sustainability that funds my lifestyle? Okay. Again, Daniel Priestley talks about having a lifestyle business or a performance business. Many people are going to have a lifestyle business, but again, they may be capped because their ceiling is contracting, or, their 9 to 5 or whatever it may be. And so you want to start diversifying and seeing how you can trickle in different ways of making money, whether that is through some sort of product, a digital product as an example, or whether you're building some sort of SaaS because you're basically capitalizing on the advantages of AI right now and agentic tools. Maybe there is a side advisory service. Maybe there is a B2C thing and a B2B thing, which is your consulting. So think creatively. You don't want to overwhelm yourself and do all these different things. But again, what did I say about the consultant mindset? It is solving a specific problem strategically using creativity, methodologies, and frameworks in a unique way for a specific group of people. So that's not just for your, again, consulting or contracting work. This can apply for whatever you do. I say this because we're living in a time of deep change, frequent change, and therefore it's important for us to understand how to manage that change effectively whilst generating income for us so we can live the lives that we need to live. So hopefully that will make sense. And so you start to realize when you reflect authentically, authenticity being the most truer version of yourself, whether that's exposed to others or not, you realize that you can help more people than you realize, not just through consulting, but through mentoring as an example, or through some of the other things that I mentioned before, like products, etc., etc. So many people want that portfolio career. Again, when I'm coaching people, when I'm mentoring people, okay, because I see myself as a strategic portfolio career mentor, it's the same thing. They come to me, they're about to leave their role, or they've left it already. They want to develop some sort of consulting practice solo, okay? And essentially, they want to attach on a bolt-on different sort of like products. That could be a course, that could be a program, that could be workshops, that could be trainings. And they also want to be in a space where maybe they're building something SaaS on the side, or they're doing advisory for B2B, or whatever it may be. It seems like a lot, but it's possible because I know I'm doing part of this anyway. And so I'm seeing that pattern again and again and again and again. People don't just want to do the contract and consulting. They want to experience that portfolio career. And so this is basically backing and evidencing what I'm saying. And so again, I've written here your lived experience in terms of all these different things that you may be doing. Understanding IR35, proposals, governance, advisory, your lived experience are all things that contribute to boosting your business opportunity. So don't scale too early. Don't try to do this like very quickly or whatever it may be. It requires a certain level of stability. This is why in my 9 C's portfolio career method, I talk about the fact that you have to have that core. What is core made up of? It's made up of understanding your context so you know what contract type you need initially, and then you start to develop cash before you start moving into the growth sphere, which is all of the other stuff that I speak about. So don't try to scale too quickly. Systems require identity, and identity requires clarity, of course. So don't skip to building the business straight away because they don't build themselves. You have to develop yourself as a leader and develop the consultant mindset. And so here I said, you don't scale with a small mindset. You scale when your identity, systems, and value evolve beyond just being a contractor. So contractors chase work, CEOs create worlds. It's a whole different thing altogether. And I know that sounds very aspirational and inspirational, but it doesn't not make it true. Now, before I close, again, for those of you who are interested in developing their independent consulting practice, then check to see if you're ready, okay? I always say to people, what do I do? Well, I help ambitious professionals build flourishing independent portfolio careers. And so this is one way in which you can check to see if you're ready for that. So really to summarize, it's not just about contracting consulting. It's about developing the mindset behind it, whether it's the consulting mindset or CEO mindset that enables you to develop a flourishing and independent portfolio career that is aligned to you. This is what it's about. It takes work, it takes grit, it takes you reviewing things, but it's possible to build if you take it one step at a time with the right strategic approach. So hopefully that's helped. If you want to see more videos centered around building a portfolio career, centered around contracting or consulting, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.